In May of 2014, there was a IRIS and DHIS Academy, which looked at the interoperability of IRIS and DHIS systems. At that time, DHIS2 was beginning to track the cases of Ebola, and everybody was getting a bit concerned, but at that point it wasn't a very large outbreak. IRIS was collecting data on health workers, including things like mobile phone numbers, where they were, what the cadre that they worked under is. And DHIS2 knew a bit about how the health system was structured. The organization units, in particular, carried information about the hierarchies of counties and districts and facilities, their locations, the GPS coordinates, etc. So what we did during that workshop was to link the IRIS to the DHS facilities and start exporting aggregate data from IRIS into DHS on the number of health workers. In that context, we were focused on family planning issues. And so now we have a connection made between IRIS health worker data and DHIS facility and organizational data. In August 2014, RapidPro and UNICEF came to us asking about using the data that's in IRIS, the mobile phone data, to set up a communication system for health workers. The Ebola outbreak was obviously by a crisis at that point. So IRIS has the health worker data, DHIS has the facility data, and if we wanted to look at the integration of RapidPro with these two systems, it was going to take quite a bit more time if we had to link both IRIS and DHIS2 together, because they each have their own interfaces and ways of presenting the data. So instead, we pulled in the interlinked registry based on CSD, and using the typical standards mantra that standards are cool and allow replicability and reduce system complexity, we're able to set up a system to help communicate both the IRIS and DHIS data into RapidPro. So DHIS2 is presenting its data as CSD for the organizations and the facilities. In addition, some of the users of DHIS are also health workers, so we're able to pull out the users and from DHIS2 as health workers. In particular, there was an Ebola response user role that we were able to capture. From IRIS, we pulled out the health worker data, and we also used it as the canonical list of cadres for the country. These were both dumped out in CSD into the interlinked registry. And at that point, we had already had some support for FHIR representation of the health worker or the practitioner, and we decided to add in the location, which is like the facility concept, and the organization resources for the FHIR adapters on the interlinked registry. So what we're doing is we're taking the CSD data model, the XML data model, and mapping it into the FHIR endpoints. We'd also added the support for JSON. In addition, the interlinked registry, the Open Info Man, has acts as a SVS repository, so this is where the standardized lists, such as the cadres or the identity types or contact types or for the health workers, are stored. The one issue that we had is that RapidPro didn't speak FHIR. It has its own custom vendor-specific API, and we wanted to translate between the two. So its API is a RESTful JSON-based API, and that does map fairly well with the in terms of programming languages with the FHIR JSON representation. So what we added was a msync coordinator. This was developed by ThoughtWorks. It's a small node script that's going to do the translation and synchronization of pulling in the health workers and the organizations and the facilities from the interlinked registry and putting them into RapidPro. Essentially, every health worker becomes a contact, and then there's contact groups which are based on the facility, the district, the county, and the cadre. The MSync coordinator, we wanted to give it a nice home, so we put it into the interoperability layer, which in general we are recommending for the deployment for anytime we have the health worker registry and by proxy the interlinked registry, to handle the security as well as the translation. And so putting all this together, we have sort of the core OpenHIE components that we needed to support this use case. So adding in Rapid Pro, we get something that's called mhero. Going to the next step, we have a little bit more work to do. We have information about the community health workers. They're called the the general community health volunteers. So that's another additional source of health service data. We're taking this as it's an Excel spreadsheet. We're mapping this into CSD. It has the mobile phone numbers and the names and the positions of these GCHVs, and we're mapping that into the interlinked registry as well.